Welcome aboard Beyond the Engine Room, a podcast produced by Rob Peterson, an ex-marine fitter who tells us about his travels around the globe, some of the characters he met, the ports he saw, and even a glimpse inside the engine room.
Awesome.
So the story starts in Cardiff Central Railway Station,
Right.
and it's 1990, and Rob is meeting up with three of his colleagues, Peter, Wayne, and Hayden.
Okay.
And right off the bat, we get this intriguing detail. Hayden's nickname is Lord Lucan.
Lord Lucan. That's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And the reason for that nickname is apparently Hayden bears a striking resemblance to a British lord who disappeared from a murder scene in the 1970s.
Wow. Okay, so we've got a little mystery right off the bat.
Exactly. And as if that wasn't intriguing enough, the destination of this work trip is also a mystery, at least initially.
Oh, okay.
So they're all gathered there at the station, and Wayne's the one who breaks the news, and he says, we're going to Hilo.
Hilo.
Yeah. And Rob initially thinks Japan,
Right.
but no, Wayne clarifies, it's Hilo, Hawaii.
Wow. So a mystery destination that turned out to be Hawaii in 1990?
I know. Can you imagine that, like, today, you book a work trip, you know exactly where you're going?
You've got the itinerary, you've got the, confirmation email, everything.
Exactly. Like, all the details are planned out. But back then, there was still this element of surprise.
That's true. Like today, the surprise is if the flight's not delayed.
Right, exactly.
Or, something like that.
So, yeah, work trip to Hawaii in 1990.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Right. It sounds idyllic. But, we have to remember, this is 1990.
Yeah, things were a lot different back then.
Air travel was a completely different experience.
Oh, absolutely. No mobile boarding passes, no Wi-Fi on the plane,
Can you imagine? So they start their journey like any good group of British colleagues would, with pre-flight pints at Heathrow.
SS.
But then, get this, Rob gets randomly upgraded to business class.
What? No way!
I know, right? No explanation, just pure luck.
That's amazing. It's like you said, the unexpected.
It really is. And, nowadays we're all obsessed with points and status and trying to hack the system.
Yeah, for sure.
But back then, travel perks were more serendipitous.
Yeah, just random acts of kindness.
Exactly. And it makes you appreciate the simple joy of a surprise upgrade.
Absolutely.
In those moments, you just have to savor the good fortune.
Yeah, just enjoy it.
So I can only imagine his friends back in economy,
All right.
peeking through the curtain at Rob, living the high life.
Living it up.
But the journey doesn't end there.
Okay.
It took multiple flights via Los Angeles and Oahu to finally reach Hilo.
Oh, wow. The good old days of multi-leg flights.
Right. But I have a feeling this is where the story gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm hooked.
So they finally land in Hilo, and there's another twist waiting for them. The ship they were supposed to meet is delayed.
Oh, no.
I know, right? It's unheard of in today's hyper-efficient world.
Yeah, like you said, everything's so planned out now.
Exactly. So what happens if the guys get a couple of days on the island on expenses?
Seriously. On expenses.
Yeah, can you imagine that happening now?
No way.
You'd be lucky to get a free airport lounge pass.
Right. Like maybe a meal voucher if you're lucky. Okay.
The next day, Wayne asks Rob to rent a car. Something medium-sized family sedan style.
Okay.
What does Rob choose?
Let me guess he didn't get a family sedan.
You got it. He went with a bright red 5-liter convertible Ford Mustang.
A Mustang. Seriously.
Yep, a Mustang in Hawaii.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's a cool car, but for a work trip with colleagues?
I know, right? What was he thinking?
I guess it was a different time.
So picture this Rob cruising down Hawaiian highways in this Mustang, Lord Lucan riding shotgun, and the other two crammed in the back trying to light cigarettes with the top down.
Oh my gosh, that's a visual.
It's a classic scene right out of a movie.
So, lava fields, you said. That's not your typical beach vacation.
Definitely not your typical beach vacation.
No.
But you know what? It's actually pretty awesome. The lava fields around Hilo, they're like, well, imagine this. Molten rock, just surging from the Earth's core, cooling and hardening over millions of years. It's this constant process of creation and destruction, shaping the whole island.
I can see why he'd be drawn to that. It's like witnessing the raw power of nature.
Exactly. And Rob, he really felt that power. He talked about driving with these massive black lava fields stretching as far as the eye could see. The sheer scale of it just blew him away. He even mentioned these cool formations he called lava trees.
Lava trees, what are those?
Well, picture this. Molten lava flowing around a tree trunk. The outer layer cools and hardens, and then the intense heat inside just burns the tree away, leaving this eerie solidified mold.
Whoa, that's crazy. Nature sculptures almost.
Right, like stepping onto another planet.
So did he talk about what it was like being there? I mean, beyond just the sights?
Oh, absolutely. He mentioned the smell, said it was like nothing he'd ever encountered before.
I bet. I mean, you've got the sulfurous gases coming from the cooling lava, right?
Yeah, and mix that with the steam rising from the fissures in the ground. Rob said it was earthy, almost metallic, and super intense.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially near any active flows.
Speaking of active flows, Rob was completely captivated by the plumes of steam escaping from the cracks in the cooled lava. It was like this constant reminder that beneath the surface, things are still very much alive.
And hot. I mean, that steam, it can get super hot. It's a sign that the lava underneath is still, well, lava.
That's so true. He mentioned a real sense of awe, too, like realizing how easily that landscape could transform in an instant if there was more volcanic activity.
And it's a Hawaii. The Big Island is one of the most volcanically active places on Earth.
Exactly. You know, eventually the day came for Rob to say goodbye to the Mustang and join his ship.
Ah, yes. Back to the sea.
Right. But even though he had to move on, those drives through those lava fields, they really stuck with him.
Of course. It's not every day you get to experience something like that.
And the journey didn't end there. After the Mustang, he boarded the Pacific Princess cruise ship with his coworkers.
The Pacific Princess.
Yep. They were ready to see more of the Hawaiian Islands, Lahaina, Kona, Kauai, Oahu.
No, he hit all the big ones.
He did. He had so many great memories. He talked specifically about the beach bars in Honolulu, all lit up with these flaming bamboo torches. Said it created such a lively atmosphere.
You know, fire has deep symbolic meaning in Polynesian culture. Warmth, light, a connection to the spiritual realm.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's true.
Okay, so the Pacific Princess
All right.
sails from Hilo,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes to Lahaina,
Oh, Lahaina.
and then Kona,
Oh.
and then Wili Wili, which is on Kauai, and then Honolulu on Oahu.
So it's hitting all the major islands?
Yeah, it is hitting a lot of the big ones.
Wow.
I mean, this is a pretty big cruise.
It is a pretty big itinerary, yeah.
For sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so he gets on the ship.
Yeah.
And he sails from Hilo, and then they stop at Lahaina first.
Okay.
And Lahaina's on Maui.
Hmm.
So Wili is on Kauai,
Okay.
and he talks about how beautiful it is.
Yeah, Kauai is known for its beauty.
Yeah, and he says it's like the Garden Isle.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Yeah, it's very lush and green,
Mm-hmm.
and he really enjoys the scenery there.
Good.
And then the last stop is Honolulu,
Okay.
which is on Oahu.
Right.
And he says that Honolulu is very different from the other islands.
In what way?
It's much more
Okay.
built up.
Yeah, it's a big city.
Yeah, it's a city.
Yeah.
And he says that it's very exciting.
Okay.
He really enjoys the nightlife there.
Oh, nice.
And he talks about these beach bars that are lit by flaming bamboo torches.
Wow.
And he says that it's very magical.
I bet.
Yeah. And it's in Honolulu
Right.
that he makes this promise to himself
What promise?
that if he ever gets married,
Uh-huh.
he's going to do it in Hawaii.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Yeah, he doesn't say,
Yeah.
why.
Right.
He just says that he feels
Gala.
the strong connection to the
Yeah.
islands
Yeah.
and that he knows that he wants to get married there.
Wow. So he's having a very impactful experience.
He is. And you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't really go into detail about why.
But it's
Oh,
obviously very profound for him.
But it's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's obviously like a really big moment for him. And it's interesting because it's not just like,
Right.
oh, I want to come back here on vacation.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
this is where I want to, you know,
Have one of the
make a commitment.
most important days
Yeah.
of his life. He wants to have it there.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
He leaves Honolulu,
yeah.
and the Pacific Princess sails to Vancouver.
Okay, so that's the end of his Hawaiian journey.
That is the end of this
Right.
part of his journey.
Okay.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
years later,
Uh-huh.
he does end up
What?
marrying
No way.
his wife, Mandy,
He did.
in Hawaii.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he kept that promise to himself.
Oh.
And they got married at Kaka'ako Waterfront Park
Kaka'ako Waterfront Park. Okay.
in Honolulu,
Wow.
which I think is really sweet.
That is really sweet.
Yeah.
So it really just goes to show
Yeah.
how much of an impact
Mhm.
travel can have on you.
Yeah.
It can really shape your desires
Mhm.
and your choices in life.
Yeah. We're going to be looking at this account from Rob about a voyage he had on the Pacific Princess
Oh, cool.
from Honolulu to Vancouver.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're talking about like
Yeah.
tropical to...
Totally different climates, right?
Ah,
So we're going to see how that transition happens and what Rob experienced along the
Sorry.
way.
I imagine up the coast there, you're going to get into some pretty rough seas pretty quickly.
Yeah, and he was a marine fitter on the ship, so we're going to get into what that is exactly. But he kept this log, and the descriptions are amazing.
Oh,
He
cool.
talks about powerful swells and fierce winds, and it just sounds wild.
Yeah, you can almost feel the ship battling the elements, right? Just
Yeah.
the force of the waves crashing against the hull. I bet those weren't just swells. I bet they were like walls of water.
Yeah, and, everyone's inside,
Oh, yeah. Hunkered down.
but Rob's below deck working.
Yeah, keeping everything going.
Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, a marine fitter is essentially the ship's engineer,
Oh, okay.
keeping all the machinery going,
Gotcha.
which in those conditions sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, that's like trying to perform surgery in an earthquake.
Yeah.
I mean, the constant vibrations, the strain on the engines, the potential for leaks,
Oh, totally.
fires, talk about pressure.
Yeah, but here's what's so interesting. He also describes the waves with this kind of awe.
Really?
Like he's not just fighting the ocean. He's respecting it, even admiring it. So first, let's imagine ourselves down in the engine room of this cruise ship.
Okay.
Not exactly the most glamorous part of the ship, is it?
Probably not.
I mean, it's hot, it's cramped, you've got this constant roar of machinery.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, the sources mentioned that the seas were pretty rough during this time.
Oh, wow.
So I can only imagine how challenging it must have been to work under those conditions.
It must have been incredibly demanding, both physically and mentally. You need incredible focus to do that kind of work, especially when the ship's constantly moving. And yeah, let's be honest, there's a certain level of danger involved, too.
Absolutely. And in those kinds of situations, you've got to find ways to cope. And it seems like humor played a big role for Rob and his team down in the engine room.
Right.
And that's where Lord Lucan comes in.
Oh, yeah.
What an incredible nickname.
Yeah.
What do you think it says about this guy? Or maybe about the engine room culture in general?
I'm so curious about that, too. I mean, it definitely suggests a playful, maybe even mischievous personality. Was he a bit of a rogue down there, or was it just a way to lighten the mood, in such a serious environment?
Yeah, it really makes you want to know more about him.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of humor, there's this great anecdote that Rob shared about working with Hayden.
Oh, yeah.
So both of them were marine fitters. And Rob always liked to tease Hayden about using these really small spanners for all of his jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, Hayden actually needed a big 32 millimeter spanner.
Okay.
So he calls out to Rob asking for it.
Oh, I bet Rob had something to say about that.
Oh, yeah, Rob couldn't resist. He just shot back with this quip. Like, why you need it to put some purchase on your 12 millimeter spanner.
Oh, that's hilarious. I can practically hear them laughing down there.
Right. And it wasn't just them. The sources say that their coworkers, Wayne and Peter,
Oh, wow.
were in stitches too.
That's great.
So it seems like this kind of banter was pretty common between them.
It sounds like it.
Which makes me wonder, do you think that this shared humor was part of what helped them bond as a team?
I think it definitely played a role, especially in such a high-pressure environment.
Let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about Rob's arrival in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine going straight from that engine room to stepping onto land in a brand new city?
What a contrast.
Yeah, it must have been like going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, you go from this enclosed mechanical world to this bustling port city with fresh air and these incredible views.
Yeah, and the sources mentioned that Rob was particularly struck by the city's skyline and the mountains shrouded in mist.
I can see why.
But keep in mind, this first visit was very brief. He was there for work and didn't really have much time to explore.
Oh, okay.
But even those stolen moments, those first glimpses of the city, seem to have made a real impression on him.
It sounds like they planted a seed, maybe a desire to come back and experience it more fully.
Right, it makes you think, what was it about those specific details that intrigued him so much?
Yeah, was it the sheer scale of the landscape?
Or the sense of mystery in those misty mountains?
Or maybe it was the promise of a different pace of life.
Yeah, a world away from the engine room.
Yeah, definitely.
And as we know, Rob did eventually return to Vancouver for a much longer stay.
He did.
So it makes me wonder, how do you think those initial impressions shaped his experience on that second trip?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Did those fleeting glimpses become lasting memories?
Uh-huh.
That concludes today's episode of Beyond the Engine Room. Keep listening for more tales from the world of maritime life. Stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next episode.